Our mics are not loud, so you can just lower down. Yeah, perfect. All right, this is as high as our mics go, so hopefully you can hear. Great to see everyone. Some of you again, just saw you at Music Biz a couple weeks ago. My name's Liz. This is Finding Success of Third-Party Playlists, arguably the most controversial panel topic here this week. This is my first time moderating in person, so I'm really excited. Done a lot of virtual things. I run label services at Vydia, which is a music distribution and technology company that provides labels and managers, primarily music businesses, with the infrastructure and tools to scale. Some of our clients include Akon, Russ, French Montana, Lovely the Band, Equity Distro, a lot of awesome companies. I am joined by the wonderful Lisa and Hannah, who I'd love for them to introduce themselves. So Lisa, why don't we start with you?
Okay, my name is Lisa Levy. I work for Robbins Entertainment, which is a dance label since 1996, so for 25 years. We've had a lot of big hits over the years, and we use a lot of third-party playlists. So I think I have some good information to share with the crowd. Yeah.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Waitt. I am VP of Digital over at mtheory. mtheory is a manager services company that works with everyone from A$AP Rocky to 21 Pilots to Zac Brown Band on the management side. And then we also have a white glove label distribution service called mtheory Artist Partnerships. On that front, we just released the new Flume album. We're currently working the Tovlo album. We also work with RL Grime, Chami, and Empress of.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. All right, so today a little discussion overview. So first we'll share some background on playlisting, pulled some dates, so hopefully you learned something today. Secondly, how to effectively use UGC playlisting as a marketing tool, and then the future of UGC playlisting, or what is now becoming known as influencer playlisting. And hopefully we'll have some time at the end for Q&A, so you can ask all your pointed, honest questions. All right, so for the purpose of this discussion, we think Spotify is really the leader when it comes to this topic. So while we may touch on other platforms, most of this discussion will be centered around UGC playlisting within Spotify's ecosystem. I'm sure my Spotify peers will love that here today. So that being said, a quick background. Spotify launched in the US in 2011 with the ability to create playlists, but in my opinion, playlisting really started to gain leverage when they acquired music recommendation platform Tunigo in 2013. For those of you who don't know what the company is, they offered playlists for any mood, event, or occasion, which introduced the opportunity for this editorial curation. There are a couple more dates that I think are also worth mentioning. In 2014, Spotify launched New Music Friday, or for my longtime Spotify users, New Music Tuesday. In 2016, Spotify acquired Soundwave, which is the social component of music discovery, the idea of seeing what your friends are listening to on their end, and also launched Release Radar. 2016, a while ago. And then in 2017, Spotify acquired Neeland, an AI that improved music personalization and discovery across the platform, and launched the coveted playlist Rap Caviar, 2017. So while Spotify has been in the playlist game for about 6 to 8 years, I think it's important to contextualize it with Apple Music, which launched in 2015, and their main playlist, New Music Daily, in 2017. So I think we can say that by 2017, all the streaming platforms were bought into editorial curation. And that's my brief little history. So turning to you guys, Hannah, what is your earliest memory of editorial playlists?
Not counting my own that I programmed on my little blue iPod mini, I would probably say Rap Caviar was the first time that I remember being like, whoa, that is a good playlist name. Like, you know what you're getting, tasty, elevated lyrics.
Right.
And it said it all from the name. And I was like, okay, I'm a follower. Let's do this.
Cool. And Lisa, I know you run an electronic label or dance label, so I imagine UGC playlisting can be equally as important to your artists as editorial. Is there an example you can share of a big UGC playlist that greatly helped one of your artist releases?
When it comes to third-party playlists for dance, there's so many genres of dance, so that it opens up to, like, there's house, there's techno, there's chill, there's deep house, bass house. I mean, it's insane. So the third-party playlists, that we go after are the big ones. Like there are other dance labels that have built huge third-party playlists, and we trade with them, or we have relationships with them, so that when we have a new record, we can get on their playlist. So like Suave Records has a big one, Loud Cult, and they're like deep house. I'm not sure exact. Like they're all like they
across the board.
Across the board on house. And then we also really use a company called Submit Hub a lot, which is kind of like submitting to like various third-party playlists by genre, and then they get back to you with if they want to accept you, if they don't, if they like it, if they don't. So there are options when you are releasing,
which we'll get more into later.
But yeah.
But perfect. Yeah. So naturally, as editorial playlists gained popularity, so did UGC playlists, so much so that major labels saw value in buying or building their own playlisting brands. So backtracking a bit on our timeline, and these are the last dates, I promise. In 2011, Universal launched Digster. In 2014, Warner acquired Playlist.net, which owned Topsify, and Sony also has Filter. So hopefully that gives you a nice, well-rounded background as we pivot to the exact topic of today's discussion, using UGC playlisting as a marketing tool. So going back to Lisa, should you integrate UGC playlisting into your artist release strategy?
100%. And I'll tell you why. Because it is so difficult to get a Spotify. It can be so difficult to get a Spotify editorial playlist. Like for the dance world, Mint is the top playlist.
The premier one, yeah.
Yes, the premier playlist. So these third-party playlists that we can get on, they're big. They have a lot of followers. They have engagement. And if we can trigger something, get something going on a third party, the song will raise its hand and hopefully trigger the Spotify algorithm. And then you get release radar. It comes in Spotify's,
Definitely.
world. So 100%. Like I think it's a huge part of our marketing plan.
Yeah. Cool. I don't know, Hannah, I think you don't do as much third party stuff, if you wanted to just kind of add your point there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on your goals for the release, right?
Sure.
And what type of release it is. I think electronic music specifically has like such a wide and varied ecosystem of third-party playlists that can really.
It's also very singles driven.
Yes,
very singles driven. We're not even selling an album. It's
Yeah, so I think it definitely depends on the genre of the music and sort of the stage of development of the artist and again what your sort of campaign goals are. Like if your priority on the campaign is to build like a lean forward fan base and build a foundation of core fans, then like something like paying money to get on playlists might not be the right thing for you, because as I think we've probably all seen in the news and have generally observed, playlists are very much a lean back experience a lot of the times. People are content to hit play and then just chill and let it ride for 6 hours. So if your number one goal on your campaign is to like build an engaged core fan base, then spending money on UGC playlists might not be the move for you, because you're paying for a lot of disengaged fans that are just going to hit play and hopefully hit the heart button when they hear yours come up. But
yeah, and I mean, I guess I'd kind of take like a different perspective there, because I think that there are a lot of, I was just talking about this with one of my coworkers in the room before, there are a lot of smaller UGC playlists that actually have communities around them. So it can be a really great way to gain new audiences and introduce your music to fans that are already in this third-party curators like realm. Yeah. Okay, so getting a little nitpicky here. How much should you spend on a UGC playlisting campaign?
I think that's going to be release by release, artist by artist, depending on your goals. Like, we'll get into this too, but like, be wary of cold emails that are like, for $10,000 we can get you X amount of streams.
No way, really? No one's gotten those.
Yeah, so I mean, look at your budget, be smart about it, be smart about your goals, and think of it as like a percentage of what you have available, and I don't know, 5-10% of your budget maybe.
Yeah. Lisa, you have, I think, a perspective on this too.
Yeah, I mean, with us, we're very singles driven, and we are going after just exposure on Spotify and streams to trigger, playlists so that we could bring us, build the story on the song. So for us, I mean, we've worked with companies, so Submit Hub is always a good one, and when we've worked with companies where they have relationships with third-party playlists, and it could be as low as $500, and they'll,
Yep.
kind of use their
Pitch.
relationships. They'll pitch.
And
They'll pitch our
yeah.
song to the Nikes of the world, to,
Yeah.
the mood playlist, the different genre playlists. And they work. And you see the playlist that they get, and you see the engagement. Like, they're real playlists, they're real streams.
Right.
It's not bots. It's like,
They're vetted, yeah.
they're real playlists.
No, definitely true. And I think that it's like, it can be anything from a really small amount of $500 to a couple thousand. I wouldn't say personally more than $5,000. I've done $10,000 campaigns before, but in my opinion, it's like hiring a publicist, like somebody who has the relationships with these playlists that you don't have. Now, make sure that person is like a vetted good person.
Right.
And you can see, right, when they do run the campaign, then you're looking at the third-party playlist reports that they're sending you, and you can kind of gauge whether or not you feel those are legit or not, legit streams.
Also, I mean, you have access to the Spotify back end, or at least you should, whether you have to ask the artist for it or the management team. So when we get a playlist, we can see exactly how many streams are coming from exactly what playlist, when did it start, the skips, the saves. I mean, the data is there. So it's not a bullshit playlist. And if it is, then you know what you're dealing with. But you vet these third-party playlist promotion people the same way I would vet a new employee at my company. I would talk to other people, talk to people they've worked with, get references. You still have to do your due diligence with these companies, but some of them are really good.
Definitely.
And they deliver what they say they're going to deliver.
Yeah, I don't know if like the Groover guys are in the room, but they're here. Groover and Playlist Push and Daily Playlist. Like, there are some companies. I see some nods,
Right.
so that's a good sign. That means that I'm mentioning some ones that you have also used. But it's not going to work for every genre, right? And in my opinion, it's a great way to get your music into international audiences as well.
Right.
Because when you're pitching, more mainstream through your US Spotify rep or your US Apple rep, like in a perfect world, they're flagging it with all reps internationally, but like in reality, that's just not necessarily happening all the time. Again, we're in the independent world. This is an independent discussion. Maybe in the majors, that's more likely to happen. But if you don't have the relationship with, let's say, Spotify Italy, then what can you be doing to make sure that your music is being, your artist's music is being released and promoted in that market? We can go into, I guess, the scam aspect of it a little bit. How do you vet playlists, references using LinkedIn? Vydia has something that I built earlier this year was the Vydia Plus partner directory, because there's really no centralized source of trustworthy or reputable vendors in the music industry to go and reference. I work with a lot of labels who come to me asking, who should I hire for advertising? Who should I hire for, graphic design, whatever? And rather than a bunch of like one-to-one emails back and forth, I was always trying to figure out scalable resources and tools I can build to help everybody at the same time. So something that we launched back in February was this partner directory, which if any of you are vendors in servicing the music industry, or labels or any managers looking to hire somebody in a certain field, like definitely use that resource, because we have a vetting process in that we look at making sure that they're a registered business, making sure that we have checked their references, that they have reputable clients, have had success servicing those clients in the past. So hope to build that more. If you go to it now, it's definitely in its like first V1 stage, but I think in my opinion, I saw it was something that the industry was lacking and wanted to build it. Moving into, so we talked about the idea of yes, you should integrate it into your campaign if it aligns with your campaign goals. But let's talk about what you can be doing, like, and how much you should spend. Talk about what you should be doing for free, or what you can be doing for free. So Hannah, I'll direct this at you. Artist curated playlists or developing relationships with third-party playlists. Like, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, spend time building your own artist playlist. Like, how dope would it be if, a year from today, you have a playlist of your own with 2.5 million followers, put your new release at the top of. It's a great way for artists to put their peers on, for them to sort of, it's also a branding and marketing exercise, right? Like building an artist playlist tells people this is who I am, this is what I like, this is my vibe. So come listen with me, be my fan, but also be all these other folks' fans. And then you can leverage that following for your own new releases as they come up.
Yeah, speak to that. We had talked about your example with BTS, the BTS playlist.
We were working a release that overnight jumped by like 100,000 streams, and we were like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And it turns out that one of the BTS members put our release on their playlist, and overnight, just like I don't know if y'all use third-party platforms like Chartmetric and things like that, but Wikipedia views, Shazams, everything just off the charts, up and to the right. So the power of artist playlists, I mean, especially BTS is a very extreme example, but the power of artist playlists is really real. So like talk to your peers, put them on, ask to be put on by them. And like, I would love to see an amazing ecosystem of like really well curated artist playlists evolve over the course of the next few years.
Which we'll touch on as well. Lisa, did you want to speak to an example that you had of either an artist curated or UGC? I mean, you mentioned that UGC playlist at the beginning of the discussion, but if there are any other examples you wanted to share.
Yeah, but no, I mean, just further to our thing, like if we have a song and we try to get it on other people's playlists, or we add it to our own, and then we hope that, we post it and then hope the artist shares it or messages about it or something. And that can really create way more buzz, I'm talking about if you have your own playlist, but as far as third-party playlists go, no, we're always just trying to develop relationships. If a third-party playlist adds your thing without you even knowing it, reach out to that playlist. Now on Spotify, you can kind of get in touch with, they give you that information, so you can contact the playlist.
Usually it's in the bio
it's
of
in
the
bio
playlist,
of
right?
Of the profile page.
And Instagram DMs, as we all know, is like the best way to get in touch with anybody these days. Always in the DMs to figure out kind of who are these tastemakers, and odds are they're like 14-year-old kids in their bedroom. But hey, if they like my song, I will take those streams. So
it's like you can't. Everybody, it equalizes the playing field a little bit.
I think it's also worth touching too, like on other, and Lisa, you probably have experienced with this in the dance world, like other DSPs where playlisting or UGC playlisting.
Well, YouTube is a big one. There are some big channels that have like millions of subscribers. For us, it's like Mr. Revels and Future House. So we always try to reach out to them and try to get our song, either premiere our song on using their channel. We've done that in the past. But it's hard. It's really, really hard. And it's like the radio world, how the radio world used to be. It's all about relationships.
Would you say that YouTube has become less of like an important piece of that strategy?
YouTube is still really important, but I guess Spotify also to the artist. Spotify is like the creme de la creme.
Yeah.
Like, they don't want to, they plan out their releases so that one release doesn't screw up their algorithm. It's like Spotify is it to the artist.
I do think we would be remiss not to mention the algorithmic benefits or the ways that it can, like third-party playlisting can actually harm your algorithm in some cases. And I think this kind of goes back to vetting the playlisting partners and the playlist themselves. But for example, if I'm Metallica and I go and get like a bunch of third-party playlisting that has Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B and like Doja Cat on it, and these people are skipping my song, that's going to tank me in the algorithm. I'm going to have a high skip rate. I'm going to have a low retention rate if it's YouTube. And therefore, my content is not going to be proactively surfaced to folks in the algorithm because I've shown like a high proclivity for skips.
It'll hurt.
People don't want to hear it.
Well, that's why you got to really vet.
You got to be smart.
You got to be smart. You got to make sure that your song fits on this playlist, because if it doesn't, you'll get skips, and then it'll just screw you up royally.
And not to mention the fraudulent streaming, stuff that Spotify is ongoing. Like it's an ongoing
that's
thing.
Why I'm like waiting for Spotify to walk through the door and arrest us for even having this
I
conversation.
know, it's funny.
I feel like we should also mention TikTok in all of this. There's a huge corner of TikTok that's just dudes sitting on their couch going like 5 songs you need to know this week, and then
Ari Elkins.
But it's real and it's impactful. And Ari Elkins has his own show on Spotify Green Room now where he interviews artists and lets them debut music. And like TikTok is a very real place to go to find people who are curating really great listening experiences,
Right.
and who can get your song a lot more exposure than it might have gotten otherwise.
And then also look at the leap from TikTok to Spotify.
Yeah, the conversion.
There were like 1 million playlists now on Spotify
Yeah.
that are TikTok.
Yeah.
The TikTok playlist.
The amount of times we've had like TikTok viral hits and then like lost the songs to go get upstreamed. Sad.
Right.
No, but it's definitely true. TikTok has become, and in my opinion, is not going away anytime soon. At least in the next anytime soon. I mean, it's a fast changing industry, so like a year and a half, 2 years. But I also think that we haven't really mentioned this either, other than you speaking about your experience working in playlisting and dance, is the impact of UGC playlisting on niche genres as well. And I think that this is something that we're going to see, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, influencer curated playlists and kind of the democratization of third-party curators getting more space on the DSPs. But in my opinion, I feel that it's a really it can be really helpful. You know, we work with a lot of like international genres, so dancehall, Afrobeat, regional Mexican. Sometimes the UGC playlists are larger than the editorial playlists themselves. Really because Spotify is new to some of those markets, like newer to Jamaica, newer to some African countries. But if you are tracking like the UGC where your song is placed, it can be really helpful to like kind of keep an eye on who those stakeholders are, because in my opinion, it can take your song farther than potentially like African Heat can.
Well, yeah, and it's like a focus group sort of for editorial. Sure. Like UGC can sort of like show you the path of where your song could exist editorially and how people are engaging with it in those like sort of micro communities where people are super engaged with a very specific genre.
Right.
And like now more than ever, you see this sort of like trickle down of all these different niche genres. And so if you start seeing your song go on some of those, it provides you a sort of roadmap of where it should be editorially, and allows you to sort of talk to your label reps in a smart way about how folks are engaging with your release on platform.
No, definitely. And I know that like the back end of Spotify for Artists is only going to hopefully like increase in terms of the data that they're sharing, right? Save rates, skip rates on a track level, and you know, territories, and where should you tour, and because of these are the territories that are most likely to buy tickets to your show. Like, I think we're going to see a lot more integrations happen, and I'm excited for that, because those are all, like you said, marketing drivers that should help your artists, you know, increase and build their career.
I also think third-party playlists are also sometimes ahead of the curve. Like, they can
Definitely.
see the trends coming before, and then Spotify will catch up, because they'll see a big third-party playlist that's getting some action, and they'll be like, oh, maybe we missed that, you know? So, I mean, we, in our marketing meetings every week, we have our own playlist, and we're always fighting over the search names, like what to name the playlist.
Right.
You know, because they can get very niche, especially in dance world. So it is something to like keep an eye out for, because it could help as an A&R tool too.
Are there new subgenres within the dance community?
Are there new subgenres within the
that
dance?
You feel are gaining big traction?
My A&R people are,
They're like, yes.
I'm not A&R, so
We watch them all.
yeah.
Okay, awesome. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention marketing wise before we move on to the future?
I don't know. Did I miss anything?
I covered it. Okay. All right. So cool. In summary, I feel like nice to wrap this by always looking to the future. There are many ways you can appropriately increase the UGC playlisting, but most of them free or with a small budget if you're resourceful and you have somebody on your team who can help you with that outreach. But I'd like to finish this discussion with a look into the future. So Spotify, as probably a lot of you know, announced this past April that they are testing influencer curated playlists. It's gonna be great. I'll just say that. So this idea of verified curators is something, shout out to AudioMac, has been doing for a really long time. So it's nice to see Spotify finally change their messaging from paying for playlists is bad to a more power to the people approach. That's my opinion on all of that. But Hannah, how do you think this movement to influencer curated playlists is going to affect an artist release strategy?
That's interesting. It's so funny because it feels like everything old is new again. Like, it's just this has so much potential to create tastemakers, and essentially like it's radio DJs again. No, like I remember tuning into Bobby Bones every single morning on the way to kindergarten because I loved his commentary and I loved the playlist. And now it's like happening again. So the sort of like evolution of tastemakers on platform is both like democratic in that they're allowing more people to curate these experiences and put in the work to build their followings. But it could also become super competitive.
Right.
Like if they get, imagine they got Kim Kardashian to create a playlist on Spotify and she was a tastemaker. Could you imagine how competitive
It's probably going to happen. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's providing, more lightning rods for you to sort of like create touch points for your release, garner streams, get a cool look from a credible tastemaker.
Right.
But it's also going to get just as competitive as editorial is, I think.
But it kind of levels the playing field a little bit because if there are more people and you can get in touch with more people and if you can pay more people to be on their I mean, I know I'm not supposed to say that, but if it exists,
pay to pitch.
Pay to pitch. Yeah.
Pay to have a chance.
If you can get your music on the right playlist, it could open up a whole, it opens up a whole new world for your song. So, I don't know.
Is it less democratic if you have to pay for it, though?
It's so funny. It's like, I know that I probably shouldn't say this, but we kind of miss payola in the indie world.
No.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Not quite.
I probably shouldn't say it, but, it's very tough. Spotify's like a black abyss, of trying to communicate with them. And if there are other ways to go around them and, get something started. I know.
We hope.
Now I'm
we
gonna
hope
get arrested.
that. Yeah.
I'm gonna Spotify police.
We hope
are gonna
that
come in
there's always the free option to submit. But Hannah, what do you think is next for music discovery in general? Like with Spotify and DSPs turning to more AI generated playlisting and listening experiences. What does that future look like?
I think AI is the true democratization of music because it's based solely on listener patterns, right? And listener affinities. And now more than ever, it feels like, especially during the pandemic, where no longer you're like listening to The Office Sonos or at a cafe hearing whatever they put on, like curating a 12-hour listening experience for yourself during the workday sounds exhausting. Right. So people are content to just be like,
press play.
It's rainy out today. I'll do rainy day jazz and just hit play
Sure.
and lean back and listen. And hopefully your release cuts through enough for them to like want to reopen their browser and save it and playlist it and hit that follow button and become a fan. And obviously the more listening environments that you can get your release into, the higher the likelihood is of that happening. But yeah, I think AI driven playlisting, algorithmic playlisting, levels the playing field. It lets any teeny tiny artist from like any corner of the world have a fair shot at getting their release heard. But it also sort of increases the chances that it's going to be a lean back listening experience.
Yeah, I don't know if I 100% agree with that, because I think that AI, like there's factors feeding into the AI, right? And so I don't necessarily, like in a perfect world, I'd love to think that it gives everybody a fair shot, but I just don't know how much that's true. I mean, Spotify launched discovery mode, which I do think is helping young artists and developing artists get into the mix with some more established artists. So I'd be curious to see kind of how that program evolves. But it's hard to know.
But I always do like if you like this, you'll like that. And they seem to like know me.
Discover Weekly knows me better than like my parents do, I think.
Totally.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Any last points you want to make before we wrap into QA?
No, just that third-party playlists are real. You should really consider them and not be afraid of them. And there are people out there, there are companies that are valid and real and deliver what they say and are helpful. So,
you don't need them to be successful, in my opinion.
I disagree.
They're helpful. They're definitely helpful.
They're definitely
and you should
helpful.
leverage them. Yes.
If you can, like for us, if we can't get Dance Rising, we can't get Mint, or we can't get a spot. If we can get some of these bigger ones, and they trigger,
they're catalyst to larger.
They're a great catalyst. Yes.
Cool. All right. What questions do we have today? Sure. There's a microphone that we're going to give to you because apparently they couldn't hear on the live stream.
Oh
yeah, he's going to pass it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
Sure.
So
Center.
I was not expecting that. Just like,
Right there.
Your 5 minutes of fame.
obviously you guys spoke about like your budgets when you're approaching like going for a playlist kind of thing. So like obviously like the returns on streaming is not amazing. So like if like let's say God did a miracle and you've got like $100,000 budget for like a release. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you got $100,000 budget for a release or something, and then you put 10K into just for like third party playlists, and it does 2 million streams, which would probably be around that. What was the point? Do you know that kind of way? Like, because it takes a lot to get them to like take off.
Yeah, your
And the
return
second
on
part of it would have been like, let's say you've got a playlist that you see and it's got lots of followers and you like the music on it, but you can't verify that it's real people that are listening to it. But because you like the music, you're like, I think this is a good playlist. You know that kind of way. So those are the two questions. Thank you.
To me, it's less about the actual streams and more about the algorithmic benefit of being placed in an ecosystem with your peers. You know what I'm saying? Like when you are being listened to alongside artists that you aspirationally want to be like or who sonically sound like you are making it more and more likely that, like, say I'm like a pop singer that like raps sometimes. If people are listening to me with Doja and Megan and Cardi and all of a sudden they hit radio from a Doja Cat song, I'm more likely to pop up in that radio queue or that autoplay queue.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they finish listening to a playlist that's like pop and rap, their autoplay might play me next. So it's less about the sheer number of streams and the money that you're making from those streams than it is about priming your algorithm and priming your audience to be more likely to get served your releases in the future. For me personally.
No, I agree with that. And the streams, but yes.
And the
but
streams.
Right, but really triggering the algorithms and getting your record with similar sounding artists so that it could be discovered.
Yeah. And the vetting piece of that is just like try to see what person is behind the playlist, right? And like go on Instagram and maybe make contact with them if you can. They don't have an Instagram and they're not promoting their own playlist. That's a little concerning to me because if they have a big following, like they should be outside promoting.
Right.
Cool. Next question. Nothing? Sure. Oh, yeah. Hold on one second. Sorry.
Hi. Can you talk more about that, like vetting, like how to find out who they are, or if they're good, or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think
them?
there's more established brands out there, and so they have like actually full-time employees working at the company to like build these playlists, and that's one way. If it's a bigger brand name, then I think that there's a little bit more legitimacy to it. And the other piece too, I mean, I don't know if you have any other recommendations, but a lot of times when we mention this, like the email to reach out and pitch is in the bio of the playlist itself.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like the big third-party playlists that we've dealt with, yeah, there is a contact person. Like you can reach out to them, whether it be through Instagram or through an email given in the bio. So yeah, I would definitely, you got to do your due diligence though, because it's true. I would say like every week. I mean, how many people in this room get like, 100,000 streams for $1,000? We can get you on this playlist. And so if it's too good to be true, it's probably not true. Like with anything.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So just to answer as well, there's a nice website called isitagoodplaylist.com. And that actually vets quite a bit for some of the third-party playlists. Wow. It's so funny because I've been exploring all of this week.
Oh, wow.
But I wanted to ask, I mean, we talk about Spotify a lot. We know Spotify is a big player. You can't really do the same thing on Apple Music as much, or I mean, it's not as front line in terms of playlists, but no one spoke about SoundCloud. And do you feel as though SoundCloud is sort of like really in the back burner at this point? They do have quite a bit of a niche crowd.
Definitely still important. I think we spoke primarily to Spotify because they are the major player, but there are also a lot of independent SoundCloud playlists that you can pitch for. And SoundCloud, as we've seen, Trippie Redd and a lot of like young rappers come out of, and a lot of hyper pop, and what's the new pop, digicore, that's a new one coming out of SoundCloud. So yes, SoundCloud is a trendsetter in my opinion still, so not to be forgotten about. But if you are a country artist, obviously SoundCloud is not the place to find those playlists.
Yeah, I guess we kind of go to what our artists like never ask about SoundCloud. Like they're always just obsessed about Spotify, then the algorithm, and when to release it, and how to release it, and the featured artist, and how to, it's they're like obsessed with Spotify. So then we have to obviously be obsessed with
Respect
Spotify.
their wishes.
Right. I mean, yeah.
Do you feel it would be difficult to kind of like streamline on all the platform, being like, okay, we'll do it on Spotify mainly, but let's do YouTube Music as well, and then also SoundCloud, and do all this different strategy, or is it just too much at one point?
I think you have
but where's
funds.
like who's paying the highest royalty
Right.
rate and where the biggest audience is, that's how I prioritize my time and my marketing strategy.
Well, thank you.
And also obviously Spotify versus Apple, where you could see the streams. That's, Apple's behind a paywall. So you don't see, unless it's your artist, you don't know what other artists are what plays they're getting. So Spotify was smart in that respect when they set it up.
Hi.
Is this on? Cool.
Yeah.
Hi, Hannah. My name's Lindsay. I work at Mom and Pop Music. Something I'm always stressing out about is whether I do it myself or hire an external company. And by myself, just task a more junior member of my digital team with finding a handful of very targeted 10 to 20 individual UGC playlist curators who are impactful, who blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys handle this? Because building a database is time consuming. We have other jobs.
No, I totally agree with you. It's like, the majors, have the relationships and also have a trove of interns that do all this number crunching and the data and all that. And we don't. Robbins Entertainment, we're less than 10 people, So that's why I kind of like third-party playlists, somebody who has a relationship with them. It's like, it's very similar. It's radio, where radio was, years ago, or still is. You have like indies that work radio, and there are people that work third-party playlists, and even, have relationships with people within Spotify. It's tough. It's tough for indies.
It's a business. Yeah,
it's a
there's
business. There's a business in it, right? Yeah. And it's exhausting to do all that. I'm tired even listening to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's why we use a lot of those sort of like third-party submission portals too. Those can be super helpful. And I feel like I trust a lot of those partners not to let our songs leak, to embargo them properly. That's obviously like don't go around DMing kids a song that's coming out in 2 weeks if you don't want it to get leaked somewhere.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of the third-party sort of like submission hubs we mentioned are good. I also just love a good BCC blast. Just toss everyone on, put it out, see what comes back.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Kind of.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Have you guys had any success or are aware of any success with catalog, populating on UGC playlists instead of listing catalog? We have a significant amount of catalog, and I'm just looking, any way
Yeah.
to sort of circulate and invigorate.
So I think the most powerful UGC playlists right now are anything with the word TikTok in it, because all TikTok creators are going to those playlists to find new music to use in their posts, because there's just not they can't get enough of it, right? Like TikTok can't curate playlists fast enough or make large enough playlists that will keep these TikTok young guns happy. And so that's my perspective, is if you feel like you have a song, a catalog song that you think would resonate well on TikTok, then you should try to get it into some of those TikTok playlists. But that's my first kind of initial thought on it.
Or go for moods. Moods are timeless. Hits are fleeting, moods are timeless.
Right.
So find a cool mood lane that it fits in. Like Coffee House is not subject to the most recent releases. So yeah, think about moods and vibes.
And these third-party playlist promotion people, companies, they work the mood playlists, which is catalog. So yeah, it definitely, it exists.
Cool. Hi. This doesn't work. Talk loud.
Nah, that's okay.
Just
We can
scream
hear
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. We had the conversation, like we've had success with Submit Hub,
Different
and they
ones.
both looked at me like, well, that sucks for us. But it could be genre based. Like we're a dance label, and Submit Hub does way better for us than the other
Playlist
companies,
Pusher, yeah.
right? Or daily,
Yeah.
your daily playlist or Groover. So I mean, I think try them all.
Yeah, try them all.
You know, they're not
unfortunately.
that expensive. Like spend a little money, try them all, and see what comes back, how they do.
And then if you don't have upfront budget, this is maybe less applicable to Spotify than other platforms like YouTube, but there are a lot of platforms out there that will do monetization splits with you. So, you can upload we work with a partner called The District. So you submit your release there, you tell them the monetization split that you want, and then they sort of like parse it out to all of their different channels and properties. And some people want to upload it, some don't, but you don't have to have upfront budget to get playlisted there.
Can you do that for a specific amount of time? Can you do it like we do it for 3 months?
Yeah,
and then we
you
cut
can-
it,
you can set
You
it-
don't want somebody monetizing your stuff
Right.
forever.
No, yeah, and you
You
want to
wanna
be smart about how you deploy it too. Like
Right.
if you have an official music video coming that's absolutely sick, like don't give your music to third-party playlists that are going to siphon off your SEO and siphon off
Yeah,
your
but
views.
then that becomes like a catch-22 because you can have this great music video and you want to partner with somebody because they have this huge channel that can get it so many more
Yeah.
eyeballs that you do. So you do make a deal and you do monetize, but then you want to like after a certain amount of time, it reverts back to you.
Yeah.
We've come
Well,
up against that.
It's a
you
lesser
know?
of two evils for sure. 'Cause
It
then
is.
the other channel gets all the engagement and the follows and the likes and the comments, and your artist channel is sort of left
I know,
out
but
in
we
the
never
cold.
would have gotten that huge exposure if not for the
Exactly.
channel.
Yeah, so you gotta sit here and have this debate and
Right.
figure out what's more important.
Right here at Indie Week Live.
Right.
Hello.
Yeah.
We have 30 seconds.
Mm.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
It totally matters for us. I mean, when we try to do it, we try to get US based so that the streams will, because it's important for us to develop a story in the United States. If we don't have the record for the world, and even if we do, obviously you want the US is your prime target. So yeah,
But if it's a developing artist, I don't care. Like I manage a young artist, and I don't care. Like I would love for him to be big in Brazil.
Right. It's really true.
I would love to do a tour in Brazil.
No, that's not the most terrible thing, but yes, it is tough when you do these playlist promotions and the bulk of your streams are coming from, Brazil, Romania, wherever. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's about like if you're going for an ad at Triple J, then like go find some Australian playlists so that you can go back to the Triple J folks and say, look at this great uptick that we had in streams coming from Australia.
Right.
So
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I hope that was interesting and semi-informative. Have a good rest of your week. Happy Indie Week.